Lou. Lieutenant's the thing we're parodying here. I was looking round the jungle, seeing the rough and tumble. The avenues and alleyways were coming alive. Abel and his brother were having yet another minor disagreement. I kept on the move till the daytime turned into night, then ducked into the nearest watering hole for a spot of refreshment. I asked the barman for a Tennant's Pilsner. The cool taste was out of this world. Fingers and his mob were at their usual table, casting fearsome shadows on the wall behind them. A squealer passed me a randomiser selection. I'd read about how he died in the morning paper. But until then, I had a choice. Finish my Tennant's Pilsner, or settle down to watch one of my favourite episodes of Captain Scarlet. It was close, but in the end, duty calls. Tennant's Pilsner. It's good, but not that good.
Leading the fight, one man fate has made indestructible. His name, Captain Scarlet.
So, get your, I don't know what's on, because it's time for some Captain Scarlet. I don't know where I was going there. I think it's just the very spooky opening shot we have here of Mars, instantly, just from the first shot. You know, this episode is going to be a bit different, because I think that's probably the first time we've actually seen Mars since the first episode. So it's like, instantly we're like, whoa, back to the origins of the series, back to this crucial element of the show that we haven't really revisited since it started. And here we have K14 Observatory in the Himalayas with a little tiny SPV out the front of it. It's a lovely model, very intricate. I don't think it quite establishes how the SPV gets there. I see there's a little bridge, but it doesn't seem to connect to a road, which is interesting. I suppose the SPV doesn't need any roads, does it? And here we go. Inside the observatory, we find Captain Scarlet and Blue, and 3 men.
First picture transmission starts in 35 seconds.
3 scientists, I should say. And I notice in the control room they also have that computer prop from Renegade Rocket.
Spotted it.
With the word 0, I think, still illuminated on it.
Right on target. 21,000 miles from Mars.
And instantly, something I have to mention with this episode, which is one I find people either love or hate, but I find the music in this is just superb. I mean, listen to that.
10 seconds.
Buildings swell as this little probe approaches Mars and then gets exploded.
0. Start transmission.
Yeah, that's definitely the desk from Renegade Rocket. You can see the little readout unit that Major Reeves stole. So what's going on? This is all very suspicious and intriguing.
Have we done it?
We won't know for nearly 4 minutes. Mars is about 43 million miles away. It'll take that long for the signals to reach us.
That is, if the Mysterons haven't already destroyed the satellite. I'll report to Cloud Base.
So we're actually taking the fight to the Mysterons for a change in this episode, it seems, which is very nice, very refreshing.
What's the latest situation, Captain Blue?
And I love that the Mysterons just destroy the satellite as it approaches. Just, they can do that. We don't even have to explain if there's a defense screen around the planet or whatever. They don't want it there. Boom. Bye-bye satellite.
Rate our chances, Captain Scarlet.
Well, it's hard to deceive the Mysterons, but there's always a chance.
Yeah, let's cling to that. 150 seconds left. But yeah, that music, I love that with obviously Barry Gray didn't score music for every episode of the show. It was, he'd maybe, I think with Captain Scarlet there's maybe like a dozen that he scored out of the 32. And it's always interested me which episodes were deemed worthy of a new score. Was it just that the setting was so unusual?
Check video.
I just did.
Well, do it again.
Oh, sniping and snapping at each other, very nice. Yeah, was it just that the setting was a bit unusual, we need a bit more music, or was there a sense sometimes of, this is a better episode, this is going to be a classic, let's put a bit more into this on the music front? And yeah, so much of this would go on to be reused throughout the series, and quite right too. It's just beautiful music. And a nice pan across the observatory dish here. I like also that it's in a very remote area of the Himalayas. There's no people or buildings or anything around. It's just this one remote outpost and these 3 guys who seem to get on all right, but bit of friction there earlier.
20 seconds.
Stand by. Start video recording.
15 seconds.
Now.
And also, I think this is a really good episode for just hearing the voice actors bounce off each other as these three scientists. There's a real natural energy to this.
Lost the signal. Check it. No possible doubt. It's been destroyed.
2 seconds before the first picture transmission.
Oh, bother. 2 seconds, and yet...
Mr. Rons have destroyed the satellite. Phase 1 complete according to plan.
Oh, has Scarlet turned on us? No, apparently this is all part of the plan.
This is the voice of the...
I'd forgotten about this, yes.
We know that you can hear us, Earthmen.
We've had a bit of a helium leak on Mars, but still try to take us scarily.
Been destroyed.
Yeah, I've heard that Donald Gray inhaled helium to do the voice of the Mysterons, and then it was digitally pitched down. I don't know how true that is.
Of the Mysteron.
But this episode kind of makes me believe it.
Will be avenged.
That he's done the voice and then it's not been pitched down for whatever reason. But, you know, even if the Mysterons sound a bit silly, Captain Black, who is not in this episode actually, but Captain Black will not have been sucking on helium. Let's check in with Cloudbase.
Members of Spectrum, as you have heard, the first satellite launched to orbit Mars and relay pictures to Earth has been destroyed by the Mysterons.
Oh, no.
This was, of course, anticipated.
We were prepared to fail.
Continue as planned. As K-14 observatory...
I like this shot of the other captains and the angels just kind of sitting around, having reads of books and drinking coffees and things.
...of the observatory in the Himalayas.
It does look a bit of a boring life.
Aerial surveillance.
If you're not Captain Scarlet or Captain Blue.
All Spectrum personnel are on red alert.
Here we go.
This exercise is part of a larger plan. Operation Sword.
Operation Sword, of which we are not explained fully what this is, nor is it ever mentioned again after this episode. But here we have an interesting sequence. We are going to move Cloudbase. And I look at the footage of Cloudbase moving, these engines powering up to move the base. And it looks to me like stock footage. It just looks... It has that sort of slightly worn look to the footage. And I've always wondered if this was meant to be like a regular thing with Cloudbase. They shot this footage at the start of the series.
Well, looks like we're underway.
Thank you for that, Captain Gray. See, Captain Gray, that's his job for the day. He looks out the window and tells us that we're on our way. I said they didn't have much to do. But yeah, I've always wondered if that footage was shot at the front of the series on the expectation that Cloudbase would be moving around all the time, and then they never did it. And then with this episode they thought, well, we've got that footage, we may as well use it here. Again, I have no evidence to support the idea that that footage wasn't shot for this episode, but there's something about the footage, it just looks to me like this is stock footage, it's been hanging around for a while, let's get some use out of it. Meanwhile, more spooky music and spooky space shots.
I have the mini-satellite under infrared track.
Because we're sending in another satellite. Minisat 5.
Touchdown in 2 minutes.
Let's hope the Mysterons don't detect this one.
Well, we're tracking it by infrared reflection of the sun's rays from the satellite shell. At least there's no transmission for them to pick up.
Adam, why did you tell me something I already know? Oh, it's for the audience, Captain Scarlet. Yeah, I'm not keen on that very wobbly little Martian moon. I like that they've tried to...
is keeping the Martian moon between itself and the Mysteron.
To create that impression of the moon orbiting Mars as the probe comes towards it. Because this is great stuff. The probe reversing and firing and jettisoning its sort of canopy bits and such. But just that moon, that little tiny moon, makes me smile. It looks like a meatball. Yes. It's the music with this.
It's altered course as scheduled.
Does so much on the atmosphere front. Not only in space, I mean, we spend more time in space in this episode than any other episode of the series, I think, in terms of, not being on the ground as such. And it's, Minisat 5 has deployed its contents of a little satellite with legs and a face. He's got a face on it, which I find quite sweet. Oh my goodness, the music is just knocking it out of the park this week. A lot of it isn't even like listenable music as such, it's just atmosphere and this. It's wonderful at building this dread and tension throughout this story.
Wonderful.
Well, we've succeeded.
Hooray for us.
A small satellite on the Martian moon Phobos.
And without the Mysterons detecting it.
Right. Phobos orbits Mars every 7 hours, 40 minutes. And our minisat will get a free ride right round the planet. Every 7 seconds. It will take a photograph.
Yay, that's what this was all about, photos.
300 hours tonight, after it's completed one orbit.
Gentlemen, we're about to obtain the best close-up shots of Mars ever taken by man.
Hooray!
A lot of work ahead. I suggest we all get some rest.
Get some sleep as well, Captain Blue. I'll take the first watch.
Right. I'll relieve you at midnight.
I just love that. We've succeeded, now off to bed. Oh, there's that meatball moon again. But, oh yeah, I love that this satellite seems to have a little face. It's got 2 eyes, a nose, and a lot of teeth. I have a feeling also this prop was seen in later episodes. It was parts of various bases, always in the background. I think it was in Arctic Adventure, the sea base in that, in Joe 90. I could listen to this atmosphere music all day, having said that it's not very listenable. It's some of space atmosphere music in these shows is a bit sort of samey, but considering there's so much in this episode, it's really great stuff. And here we go, nighttime at the observatory. And the music that established the observatory earlier on has taken a bit of a calmer, chiller air here. It's all a bit quiet. They've turned the lights off. I also love that they've got this. Being an observatory, they have this wonderful telescope prop that really they don't get a lot of use out of in this episode, and I don't recall seeing it turn up anywhere else, but hey ho. Scarlet's on guard, but there's a shadowy figure. A shadow of fear? No, it's the shadow of someone else.
It's only me. Sorry if I startled you.
Oh, Dr. Breck.
It's him.
I thought you were in bed.
Well, I couldn't sleep. What time is it?
And an interesting thing about this episode, and we can mention it with Dr. Breck here, is that this is the final episode that Paul Maxwell and Charles Tingwell recorded voices for. I guess they had other work to go to after this episode. It's interesting that they both had to leave at the same point. I'm sure they weren't working on the same project. Maybe they were, who knows? Maybe they had a stage show or something to get to.
Yes, its course was carefully plotted so that Phobos always shielded the satellite from Mars.
So it's nice that they both get key guest roles in this episode.
In the shadow of fear.
Here's the explanation.
Phobos, the Greek word for fear.
Aha.
The Shadow of Fear.
Everything all right?
Very nice title.
Captain Blue.
Well, it's midnight. I'll take over the watch, Captain Scarlet.
Right. I'll get some sleep.
Considering you've all slept.
I suggest you get some rest.
I'm indestructible. I don't get to sleep when everyone else does.
We'll try and get an hour or so.
I'm going to check outside. Good night.
Good night, Captain.
What's he think's going to be happening outside? Oh well, who knows. But that leaves Dr. Breck alone with the telescope looking at Mars, which is starting to glow.
Strange.
And I know some people have criticised this this way to kill Dr. Breck in terms of, dramatic explanation of what is actually happening here. I kind of like it. I think it's a bit eerie. I like that he's kind of hypnotised by this bright light. Mars is just suddenly glowing. It is very creepy. And he can't take his eyes off it.
The light, it's so intense. I can't... Pulsating light.
There's some great last words. Pulsating light. Mars has gone back to normal, and Dr. Breck is dead. And this is one of the, I feel, the greatest Mysteronization sequences in history. Not only the puppet is quite a good looking puppet, I think, and it's a shame he was rarely used in other episodes. Also love that Blue is outside oblivious. But it's this shot. We focus on Breck's feet as the body is dragged away by someone. Someone has to be doing that dragging. And we drag Breck's body past Mr. On Breck's feet, and there's that wonderful pan up. Of course, he is now a Mr. On. He is Mr. On Breck. And he's just about to admit it to Captain Blue here. Of course, Blue doesn't quite get it. It's just the sight of Breck standing there like a total zombie.
Dr. Breck, are you all right?
Well, what do you think?
Fine, Captain. I'm fine.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear that. Off to bed with you. It's that. I'm fine. It's just any Spectrum officer on seeing that should immediately think that's as good as a signed confession that you are a Mr. On now. But no one seems to twig.
Time?
01:58.
Just over an hour to go. Right, Lieutenant. Launch all Angels.
Angel 1, immediate launch.
And nighttime footage of the Angels launching. This happened a couple of times. I want to say this is the first episode it happened in. It's not a very notable occurrence, but I just thought I'd bring that up. More nice music. Even the Angels get a little bit of new music here this week.
Aerial surveillance.
Oh, it's lovely.
Observe radio silence, except in an emergency.
And it had better be a good emergency. We don't want to hear from you otherwise. So, I don't like, though, that Angels 2 and 3 take off much slower than they would in daytime in that footage.
The astronomers.
And at the observatory, it's not going well.
He can't have gone.
I've looked everywhere. He's not in the observatory.
He must be found. There's less than an hour before transmission.
His bed hasn't been slept in. Dr. Breck is definitely not in the building.
Well, you were the last one to see him. Where did he go after you had him?
Close to success. Nothing must go wrong.
I love as well, looking at the observatory, the model department have gone to so much effort in creating the structure of this base, the detail, and that's reflected in this shot here of the rotation gear housing room. It's going to be used to rotate the satellite later, as someone snuck in with a few sticks of dynamite, some woolly gloves and a woolly hat. It's our Mr. On friend, Dr. Breck. And also you have to wonder, when Breck's body was being dragged out earlier, who was doing the dragging? Maybe Captain Black was there, because it's happening in the way it would do if a human was doing it. It wasn't in one continuous slide. It was slide, stop, and so on.
Most certainly in the hands of the Mysterons.
But who cares?
Go ahead with the project. I will order the Spectrum helicopter to fly as low as possible over the area, in the hope that it may spot him.
Huh.
Meantime,
good plan.
Preparations for the...
I also like with this episode, as we said, this is Paul Maxwell and Charles Tingwell's last episode, so they let Paul Maxwell play the Mysteron for a change.
Let's get to the computer.
I don't think he had played any Mysterons up to this point, so that's a nice change of pace for him. Do one Mysteron before he left. Usually, I think if you were to sort of look at the voice actors and see which among them did the most Mysterons or played the most Mysterons, it would be Gary Files, by a considerable margin.
That's for sure. Let's get a Mr. On detector from the SPV.
Yeah, just in case we come across any other Mysterons that aren't Dr. Breck.
Bang on the nose. We're in business. Could you get a fix on the beam width and flux density?
I also like that once Breck disappears, these two just carry on quite efficiently without him. It's almost as if they didn't really need three guys.
Just in case the Mysterons are trying to pinpoint our position.
Yeah, well, there's no evidence to indicate that the Mysterons know where you are, except that one of your colleagues has gone missing and presumably is now a Mysteron.
Keep looking. Time's running out.
Oh, it's winter jacket time. Yeah, Blue gets a winter jacket for this episode, as does Captain Grey, because this seems to have been a let's give Paul Maxwell a proper send-off episode. We get Captain Grey up on the Spectrum helicopter, using his Mysteron detector to try and find Dr. Breck. We have Paul Maxwell searching for Paul Maxwell, oddly enough.
That could be him.
Captain Scarlet, I think Captain Grey has located Breck.
And Melody gets winter gear as well. This is fun, though. This sudden bank turn of the helicopter, and it almost makes me sort of half want to do a spoof where Grey falls out the door, because it's just so sudden and so sharp. But it's great to see the helicopter in action. It's great to see Melody and Grey teaming up for a change. I like the helicopter. It
we found him.
Doesn't get too much use in the series.
SIG Melody. Well, Captain Blue, he's in the rocks above us.
Let's go.
Check video.
Video positive.
It's so, it's such a testament to the people who made these shows that you have Blue gets a winter coat here, which he later wore again in Noose of Ice. So, okay, they knew they were going to get some use out of that. This is Captain Grey's basically final episode that he's going to do anything of note. And they make a winter coat for him for just that one scene. But, you know, that's what they were there for, and they did it very well.
We know you're up there, Breck.
You're a naughty man, Breck. Come on down. Oh, he's hiding behind a rock.
Right. We're coming to take you.
Oh, don't do that. He's got a gun. I love the way Scarlet ducks for cover fairly realistically.
Breck, give up before it's too...
Blue just sort of tips over to the side.
Too late for you, Earthmen.
Ooh.
What does that mean?
I've planted a bomb in the radio telescope's rotation.
Oh, he's broken cover to tell us this.
The observatory will be blown to pieces.
He's quite an easy target now.
You will never beat us.
Got him.
We've got to warn them.
There's no time.
We must try.
And this is just a wonderful race against time. The music, the pacing, the voice acting, the editing, it all combines. This last 60 seconds before we start to rotate the aerial to receive those wonderful pictures of Mars that are going to help us so much in our fight against the Mysterons. And the astronomers don't know that there's a bomb on the observatory.
Rotate aerial.
Of course, Scarlet and Blue have no way to warn them. And you just have this image of Scarlet and Blue off-screen racing back to warn them. But we kind of know this is Captain Scarlet. They're not going to make it. You want them to make it because, as I said, I like what the voice actors are doing here, particularly this.
This time we're gonna do it.
We're gonna do it. My God, we're gonna do it. Uh-oh, maybe we're not gonna do it. And this is just horrific. The observatory, the dish tips over, and you get that brief, terrible shot of the scientists just being buried in debris. And as I said, I find these guys somewhat likable. You know, they're not bubbling with personality or anything, but you do feel a certain attachment to them because it's obvious that this project meant so much, and at that last moment they were so excited, and then it's just the Mysterons cannot let you have any fun. And all this debris tumbling down the mountain is just brilliant. And there's one shot here I think this is it, yeah. Oh, that one glorious accident of a shot where some debris comes right into camera. And ever since I was a kid, I was always watching that shot and trying to pick out which bit it was long before it hit the camera. And the irony of this is just supreme. They got their probe to Phobos. It's now transmitting its pictures back to Earth. But of course, there's nobody there to receive it now. We have this pan from the satellite across space and then just the debris at the bottom of the mountain. Oh.
K-14 Observatory has been completely destroyed. There is no chance of there being any survivors.
And we've lost our SPV. Can Melody and Grey come and pick us up?
The shadow of fear.
Oh.
What was that, Colonel?
Oh, Green's thinking, do I have to call for the nurse to sedate the Colonel? He's rambling again.
Fear. The name is appropriate. Because of the Mysterons, the whole world lives in the shadow of fear.
What about Operation Sword, sir?
Operation Sword.
Well, that was just a joke.
Everything, Lieutenant. That goes ahead as scheduled.
But we won't tell anybody what it is or what happens. Again, I think I mentioned before, you can kind of piece together maybe Operation Sword is a general push to return to Mars. There's evidence for that in Flight 104 and Noose of Ice, but we're not talking about them. We're talking about Shadow of Fear, and that was absolutely wonderful. That is one of my favourite episodes of Captain Scarlet. Always has been, always will be. I just love that it's such a... Not only is it a change of pace in terms of setting and story, it's the fact that we're going back to the issue of the first episode. You know, Mars, the Mysterons, this is a looming threat. Rather than be on the defensive all the time, we should perhaps take the fight to them a bit. Maybe we should start to do something. And obviously in a show like this, an episodic show where the episodes are going to be shown in random order, you cannot build a continuing storyline. But you can, you know, point towards things going on. And I think this is a great development of that. I just love the setting. Love the guest characters, oddly enough. There's some real... I think it's more the voice actors than anything else, but they just do such a fabulous job with this one. And the music in this one is one of my single favourite episodic scores in just the whole Anderson universe. So yeah, all round, a fantastic episode of Captain Scarlet in all departments. One of my favourites. Always has been. I think it always will be. Good stuff.